Please don't use my real name. I grew up in Nigeria, Plateau State to be precise, but I was born in Edo State. I'm from a family of 5 and I am the middle child. Get coffee, get tea, get water. But whatever you do, get something to help push your saliva down. I was stubborn while growing up, but not to the extent of stealing or anything like that. I was more like a tomboy and just couldn't stay in a place. Smart as I was, I graduated secondary school in 2016 at the age of 16, and I got admission into a polytechnic in Bauchi State a year later. Meanwhile, I and my dad always quarreled because when I'm home, I keep late nights. And coming from a Nigeria home, late night being 7 p.m. My dad didn't like it. This led to a constant battle between us. It got to an extent after my ND program, my dad didn't want me to work any other job except being a teacher. He locked me in the house for 2 weeks, and that was when I decided I wanted to leave the house. Backstory: I had tried to tell my dad to allow me to go stay with a relative in Benue, as I was into drugs and was keeping a lot of questionable characters around me. I wanted a fresh start in another state and I begged my dad to let me go, but he refused. Back to me deciding to run away. I called up an old friend, let's call him Jacob. I called Jacob that I was leaving home and I needed a place to stay for a few days before I could figure out my next move, and he agreed. I waited on a Saturday when dad wasn't home and I took the opportunity. I left home with 600 naira in my pocket and a touchlight phone. I got to Jacob's place and told him everything. He looked sorry and told me I could stay however long I wanted and he would help me get a job. I was relaxed for the moment. 3 days later, Jacob told me his aunt works with housekeeping services in Ghana and would love for me to come and work. The pay was 200,000 naira monthly with free accommodation and feeding. I didn't think twice and I said, I'll go. Looking back, I wished I had stayed back. His so-called aunt sent me transportation money and I got on a bus from Jos to Lagos before I would meet the driver that was supposed to guide me on the trip, AJ. I tell you, the moment I stepped my leg into this so-called aunt's house, I was given water to take my bath. Coming out from the washroom, there were clothes laid out for me on the bed. The aunt just pointed at the clothes and said, put them on, we're going to work. I got to this apartment few minutes to 3 a.m. and walking by that time was weird. Before I could ask any questions, he said, no need to be confused. Now shall we carry you and you're going to work to pay me back the transportation money you came here with. I froze and I couldn't say anything. At last, I said I couldn't do it. Before the words could leave my mouth, I got a good slap on my face, followed by a series of blows. This went on for the first weeks as I didn't want to work. I was beaten every day and got little to no food for weeks. She took my phone and always locked the door when going out. When I told her one day that I would do whatever she asked, hope of her letting me outside so I could run, but instead she just smiled and from then on she started feeding me fine. After about 3 weeks, she came back home with a guy and said I was to be with the guy for the night and that he had already paid her. This was the beginning of another bad roller coaster. Every day for 3 months, different men would come and spend the night. Most times, if I refused, I would get beaten. Eventually, I got pregnant and this aunt got some drugs and gave to me. I took them and everything went back to normal. Oh, I didn't know I damaged my womb. Anyways, she eventually started letting me go outside, but I didn't run immediately because I knew nowhere. I stayed for an additional 4 months before running away. I had no money on me. As a Nigerian stuck on the streets of Ghana, it wasn't funny. I started helping people fetch water or sell anything just to get food. I spent good 3 months sleeping under the bridge in Kausa Market in Ghana until God sent a Ghanaian man who helped me bag the job in his friend's bar and is helping me save enough to go back home. It's been killing me to tell someone. I don't know how to tell my mom not to expect grandkids from me, all because of my stupid decision. In summary, she ran away from home, went to stay with a friend whom she thought was being kind to her, and didn't realize that that person had his own agenda. She was exported to Ghana to go and do prostitution. Getting there, she refused. Obviously, she was beaten, maltreated, locked up in the house, and eventually she succumbed because, at the end of the day, she will have to succumb. Next thing, she got pregnant. Obviously, had to remove the pregnancy, probably in the wrong way, like she said, and it affected her womb. At 2016, she was 16 years old. So you do the math. We're in 2025. So you do the math and see how old she is. This is not the first case. I had seen some other video on TikTok where a girl was also crying out how she was taken to Ghana to do the same thing. And I spoke to someone who is Ghanaian. he told me that the government is, weighing down so much on such things in Ghana. I am speechless. So just watch what I had to say. I was going to go off after reading this, okay? But I'm talking to people between this age bracket, 18 to 21. The grass is not greener on the other side. I'm telling you as your big sister that you're not missing out on anything. I'm telling you as your big sister that you should stay at home and allow your parents to be parents to you. Enjoy the stage of being a child. Enjoy it. I can tell you this much, that once you leave the stage, you're not coming back to it. If you're not raised at home, the streets will raise you. And from my experience, you don't want the streets to raise you. You know the saying that they say when you beat a child with one hand, you bring the child with the other hand. The streets will not do that with you. Once you leave your parents' house and you step outside the world, you are on your own. People do not really care that much to want to raise people genuinely. The only set of people that want to raise you and see that you prosper and you progress are your parents. Spare the rod and spoil the child. If you don't take beating inside, you will take beating outside. It might not be physical, it might be mental. But you see, jumping 2 to count 10, and you think you will not come back to count 2. Oh, Ashio, they lied to you. I want you to ignore these people who come online and say they are 18, 19, 20, 21, and you see them unboxing houses, unboxing I don't know what, making you feel like you're missing out on something. You are not missing out on anything. 92% of these things are audio. They are not real. They are social media, make-believe. Stay at home and allow your parents to parent you. Stay at home. There is nothing outside. This, you want to quickly become an adult. Na scam. Big scam. If you're not well equipped and you step outside to this particular world that I'm seeing, that I'm looking at, that I'm living in, you will crash. You're going to crash. The Bible says, if the foundation is faulty, can the righteous stand? Well, running away from home is not the answer. Except unless you're being molested, you're being, things are really the extraordinary. Then, please bounce. But if it's just your parents being parents to you, and you feel like, and you want to come outside to this world, this very one, everyone is a wolf. Stay inside, though. You see this car? My mom gave it to me. For the longest of time, I did not like that woman. I loved her, but I didn't like her. I sometimes thought she was not my mother, because she stood on business and said, I will not raise a wayward child. I will not raise an hooligan. If you've decided that you don't want to be wayward and you don't want to become an hooligan, then allow your parents to parent you. But if, of course, you want to be hooligan and a wayward, Akamadea, then do you, by all means. As a parent, I am not saying you should be friends to your kids, because some of you don't know how to set healthy boundaries. You don't know how to define what that means. All I'm asking you as a parent is to be kind to your children. So much so that when something happens, they're comfortable enough to come to you and speak to you about it. And in as much as spare the rod, spoil the child, you need to use wisdom to do it. Because how you raised the child 5 years ago is not the same way you raise a child now. Times have changed. And you also need to be able to change with times and align also with times so that you can be able to raise your kids properly. You don't want to scare your children away from you or scare them away from home because you're trying not to spare the road. Balance, people. Balance. Otherwise, a lot of you girls will end up being trafficked to go and do what this girl did because you guys are in a hurry to grow up. And parents are not being parents. They're not being kind to their children. You are not missing out on anything. I'm the one telling you. You're not missing out on anything. You are not. If you ever come across this video and you have any sort of, encouragement, admonition to give to people who don't understand this thing.